Good afternoon, bassoon-loving people. We're so glad you're here. I'm Kate Steinbeck. I'm the head bottle washer for Harmonia. And those of you that got the program without the bassoon image, I apologize. I did these yesterday, and I wasn't paying attention, so it's double-sided with the same information, unfortunately. And it doesn't tell you about concerts coming up, if you got that one, but you can find them on our website. We won't be back until late April, but we're coming back always, we hope. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I got back from Puerto Rico. I was there for 2 weeks on Tuesday night, and I'm still a little readjusting and making weird programs, but fantastic people. I was down there with Liz Austin, who was the early founder of this organization, and we went to a public school, 6 through 12 grade 6 through 12, a free public music school that they have down there. And it just really reminded me how important our public school programs are for music. So if you have any opportunity to support your local public school music program too, please do. Yeah, one of our bassoonists is in the system. Jennifer is in the trenches, as I say, as the teachers are. Yeah, and it's really important to get music to kids that way. So we hope you enjoy this. We're so glad you're here, and the bassoons are here. We're ready.
Sound check complete.
You read our minds.
The heckling has started. It's an inside joke.
Thank you all so much, and for joining in with that little jovial piece here to start out the program, The Witch's Frolic by Granville Bantock. He was an English composer and conductor. He was actually a conductor for a touring musical comedy group for a while. Maybe that's a little hint as to why he chose to write about the witch's frolic. He probably had a very good sense of humor. He actually didn't become a musician until he was about 20 years old, when he was working at a museum library and started to encounter musical scores. He pulled them out and looked at all the notes, and his imagination started to run wild. He became very popular in England, and they even set up a musical society that honored him after his passing. Now, a very famous composer, Jean Sibelius, dedicated his third symphony to the composer of our first piece. Pretty fancy and quite an honor. We are so glad you're here. Thank you for taking an adventuresome leap this afternoon and joining us for this Back to the Basooniverse concert. We are absolutely delighted to be back and supported by the ever-wonderful Harmonia to present music for... Oh, yes, thank you. Woo-hoo. They have supported me as a musician and this particular ensemble for many years in Asheville, and we couldn't do it without their support. Thank you, Harmonia. So, the bassoon. You've chosen to come to a concert of bassoon music. The bassoon is the lowest woodwind voice in the woodwind section of the orchestra, but the bassoon, I believe, has a quite charming, melodious, and sometimes humorous musical voice. So we're hoping that this program exploits some of those charming characteristics of the instrument, as well as its ability to be sonorous and singing, and to highlight some really interesting composers. We also have a special treat on a few numbers. You see the harpsichord on stage. We'll tell you a little bit more about that when the time is right. And also a chance to introduce ourselves as musicians and a little bit more about the instrument. At points in this program, we are glad to answer your questions about the bassoon and maybe about why in the world the three of us got into playing this instrument ourselves. I see questions already. Can we hold questions for now, please? Wonderful, thank you. Fantastic, I look forward to hearing those. Okay, our second piece is going to highlight the bassoon in a compositional arrangement of a duet. Jen and I are going to be playing a really interesting piece by German composer Paul Hindemith. He wrote this piece for vier Stücke, for bassoon and violoncello, or the cello, or for two bassoons. He wrote this piece in 1941 after he had fled Nazi Germany. He eventually landed in the United States, where he became a great part of the musical scene here. And this piece is a very curious one. You'll get to hear two voices of the bassoon playing in intervals. You'll hear lots of fourths and fifths. It's kind of characteristic of medieval music, but also one of Hindemith's characteristics as well. So if you're familiar with the composer, it'll sound very much like his music to your ears. If you're not familiar, keep your ears big and curious to hear the different sounds between the two voices in these four short movements. Hindemith himself wrote this piece as just a piece of chamber music, probably to share with his wife, who was a cello player. So he played the bassoon part. He was so talented that he played most instruments, and his wife played the cello part. So this is the epitome of household chamber music, and I hope you enjoy these little pieces by Hindemith. Thank you. Quite a curious little duet, right? Yeah.
No one went running, so that's pretty
I know. Hindemith isn't always shouted from the hilltops. His name is one of people's most favorite composers. But I do find that he has some fantastic music that he's written for winds. And anyone who's a big band person might really know his pieces for symphonic band. They're very, very popular. Now, in complete contrast, we're going farther back in history, much farther, to Mozart. Yeah, and I think Will might give us a little spiel here about and to introduce the piece and the performers.
All right. You're all familiar with Mozart, so I don't think I need to tell you much about him. He wrote his bassoon concerto when he was only 18 years old, and this piece within the year after that. It's a sonata originally conceived for bassoon and cello, and so we are going to be doing something weird on this. We're going to tag team. So there are three of us, there are three movements, so everybody gets two of them. So we kind of pass it around a little bit.
It's like a relay race.
If you're familiar with the bassoon concerto, you'll recognize some of these tunes. If you're not familiar with the bassoon concerto, when you hear it, you will recognize these tunes. Use some of the same ideas in this piece. So, what else am I supposed to do?
You're going to play the first
Oh, I'm playing the first one. Okay.
He's Will. He plays the first one.
I'm Will. I'm playing the first one.
Welcome to the stage, Barbara Weiss. Woo! We have been trying for a few years to get Barbara to be able to join us on one of these bassoon concerts. She's eclectic enough that she'll join up with a team of bassoon players. And we're excited to perform the next work for you by Michel Corrette, a French Baroque composer, called Les Phoenix. It's a very grand name for this piece in 3 movements, and it features 3 or 4 bassoons and harpsichord. And that was how the composer intended it. And I think he had it quite right for the ensemble combination. Mr. Corrette was known to be a virtuoso organist. So I wonder if he had it in his ear that the sound of 3 sonorous pipes together was quite fitting, because it suited his own musical tastes. I read a funny thing earlier about this piece where a reviewer was reviewing someone's CD where they had recorded this piece, and they were saying that they had hoped that it would fly like a phoenix, but this particular recording had kind of thumped like a turkey. I thought the bird analogy was pretty funny. They gobbled it up. Thanks, Jen. Oh, that's terrible. She's leaving. No. No, we want to keep Barb. Barb's what makes this piece so special and so energetic and fun. And for me, I also play folk music, so there's something about this piece that has some of that same energy as a folk tune, and kind of a rollicking melody with a beautiful second movement that's slow and gorgeous and really highlights the voice of the bassoon. I don't know if now is a good time to answer any burning bassoon questions, because we've been playing for a little bit. You might have one. Oh, Kate has a question. The bassoon? The phoenix? No. Phenix. Yeah. There's no O. There is an O that's supposed to be in the program later that I missed. Right. And after this piece, we will take a short break for us double reed players. Sometimes we need a little bit of a break. Ooh, I see a question. Yes, back there. Who invented this curious combination of tubes and keys? Many people did. The bassoon has probably been in a form similar to what you see today for the last couple hundred years. The bassoon's predecessor was a little double reed instrument from the Renaissance period called the dulcian or kirtle. And it was shorter and it just had little finger holes in it, no keys. And slowly but surely, people thought to themselves, oh, I'd like the instrument to play lower. Oh, I'd like to be able to play an extra note that I can't reach with my finger. So slowly but surely, keys were added to the instrument to allow the musician to reach holes that were drilled in different locations. No one has a chance of reaching that location with a finger when they're playing the bassoon. That's one of the keys at the top of the instrument. So the keys were arranged in order for the musician to be able to play more and more notes. The range of the bassoon increased because of this. It's kind of ironic that I'm the one talking about this, because Will is an expert on bassoon, genealogy, I guess you could call it. I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that question, Will? I can give you the mic. Yeah.
The modern form of the bassoon, where it's made out of 4 pieces, basically 4 wooden pieces, and the vocal, the metal piece here, that shows up in around 1680. Before that, it was just a single piece of wood with 2 long holes drilled in it, the dulcian. I'm getting old. God, that Rosalind was talking about. My good friend. So around 1680s when it gets its modern form. That was with maybe 3 or 4 keys just to reach holes that you just absolutely need, but you don't have fingers for. And then The Heckel system bassoon is the modern system that we play in most places in the world. There's also a French system of bassoon, which looks similar, but some of the keys are laid out differently. This is the instrument that won out in most of Europe and in the Americas. And this system was designed around 1837, 1841, when the first versions of it were made. It's been improved upon and some keys added to it, but the basic format hasn't really changed since then. So companies that are making these weird instruments are always looking at ways of trying to improve the intonation or improve the tonality a little bit. But it's really about 200 years old now, what we're playing. One of the things that gives the bassoon its weird sounds is that we have finger holes that are all sorts of different sizes and all sorts of different angles drilled into the wood. And so an instrument that has very logical construction where all the tone holes are in the appropriate acoustical places has a more open and a broad sound. So some of the complexities of the bassoon sound and some of our favorite annoyances about the way the thing actually works when you're trying to make it do what you want it to do, all of that's built into this kind of archaic structure that's still in the instrument.
About 8 pounds. It's like a newborn baby. I saw a question over here in the brown jacket. There is a support. It's called the seat strap. It attaches to the bottom of the instrument. You lay it across the chair and elegantly sit upon it while resting the bassoon in your left hand. So the bassoon rests in the strap, rests against your right leg, and then you hold it in your left hand. So be able to see that it does look like it's hovering, doesn't it? Yes? Mostly there is one design, but there are small bassoons called tenorins that people play and enjoy. They're about a quarter the size of the bassoon, speaking at a much higher pitch. We'll do another Basooniverse concert in the future where we can feature that sweet little instrument. And there's also a bassoon that is twice as long as this bassoon called the contrabassoon. And it sounds a full octave lower. Curves around on itself. It looks like a giant wooden paperclip with shiny keys all over it. Yeah. Part of the curvature of the tube is so that the instrument can reach the player's mouth and hands at a good angle. Otherwise, if it were fully straight, the bassoon would probably be pushed away from the body. I think the curve also helps just with, it must be something about the aerodynamics of the wind and everything too. That's something I know very little about. Yeah, they make vocals in different shapes, but the ones that we're all using are a pretty standard shape vocal. No curly cues. Oh, the keys question. Is it like 20, 21, 23? Something in that range. We don't use them all at once, of course. Yes, Nikki. Oh, what drew me to it? Oh, yes, I'm sure every bassoonist has their story. The love affair with this wacky instrument. Mine was that I was in 8th grade and was a part of my school band program. I'd played clarinet primarily, but I was very curious about different instruments. I had played recorder when I was younger. I just thought wind instruments were the very best, and I wanted to try them all. So I'd gotten in a habit of rooting through our band's music storage room. And one day I came upon this beat-up, skinny, tan case. Didn't know what it was because I thought I was the expert on instrument cases. I could spot a trumpet case across the room and, oh yeah, it's a trumpet. And I didn't know what it was. So I opened it up and it was a bassoon. And no one played it at my school. I knew what it was because I was a very proper band geek, and we had a poster on the wall with all the musical instruments, and I'd been to the symphony, and I just knew what it was. So I asked my director if I could please take it home. I figured out how to put it together that night. It was a very strange puzzle. There was a reed in the case. I don't know how long that reed had been in the case. But I wanted to try it, and I was convinced myself by the end of the night I was able to play The Sorcerer's Apprentice on it. I'm pretty sure I could play bum, 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 and I was in love with it after that. Couldn't stop me. It's a great question. Yes? I think the bottom voice. Yes. So the bassoon was the soloist in that piece by Mozart. Yeah, good taste, man, that Mozart. Wonderful. Well, let's dive into our next piece, the Chorette. We'll take a short break after that. So if you need a program or need to run to the restroom, that's a great time. At the very, very end, I think we'd be happy to show you our instruments after the program's complete. So hold that thought if you're interested in coming and looking at those keys and checking everything out. All right. The Phoenix.
late Forsyth Hauser.
I know some of the student recital, I don't know if it had a program, and he said, now it's time for a pause. And people started going, okay.
That's funny.
He was embarrassed.
Oh.
know we usually have the contra with us. This particular concert, no contra, but that one has a bunch of pieces. Like there's one piece that looks like bone. Yeah, we'll have to drag that one out. This particular concert just didn't have any, no contra, no tenor range. We're featured the harpsichord though. You know what job they do? It was actually my brother's fault. So what had happened is my brother has a hearing impairment and high pitches bother his ears. So I thought I was being this smart, independent, young sixth grader going to band night and trying out all these instruments. And my mom had said, hey, we live in an apartment. Can it not be loud if possible? So I was 100% being guided. So I thought the trombone looked really neat, and I thought the bassoon looked really neat. And my band director said, well, if you go to college, you'll get a scholarship on the bassoon. So I was like, hey, okay. Yeah, my parents were both teachers, so like college was just gonna happen. So yeah, it was kind of that. I was being guided, and she said, well, you can't march the bassoon, so march the trombone. So I said, okay. So weirdly enough, I started my first year of high school on the cymbals. After pinching myself repeatedly on the arms, I said, I don't want to do that next year. So I got thrown on the trombone, which I wanted to play anyways. And I had so much fun. And then I wanted to change, so I went to the marching French horn. And the last year, he wanted me to play trumpet. I was like, stop, no, I want to do 1 year where I'm not learning the instrument and the show. So, yeah, that's kind of the journey there. Yay, love it.
Goes out sideways.
You know, it would actually be happier at 438 because it is made from that earlier tuning. So we have to do modifications with vocals and rates to keep it up, yeah. So some of the orchestra members kind of kill us because they keep going higher, and this instrument's happy flatter. But yeah, we have to do a lot to keep up with our colleagues that can shift fingers. Like,
Testing, testing.
I played over in Denmark, and I just had to cut my reed shorter. I didn't have a shorter vocal because when I traveled over there in the 90s, this cost about $300.
2 minutes, please. 2 minutes till showtime.
So you can't just
Thank you, too.
easily just switch out a new one. So even at the time, 300 was still like I had to think about it and save and try and all that. So yeah, it was actually the most international quintet I've ever played in. The oboe player was from Israel. The flute and horn were from Poland. I need to swap my instrument. Or else you're going to get locked in the room. Yeah, this one. Ding, 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 ding.
I did speak in microphone.
Sorry. Oh, no problem.
No, I don't mind at all. Go ahead. Oh, no worries. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, of course. Oh, nice. Oh, that's great to hear. I'm finding fans of the bassoon. That's great. Thank you. Lovingly. Yes, and I'll talk about there's a typo in the program. It says rumble. Swab and everything.
Halfway, we swab the deck. Yar.
I know. It's good.
Welcome back, everyone. My goodness, I'm so excited to hear all the bassoon questions and how interested everybody is in our little instrument. It's amazing fun. So thanks for sharing your curiosity and for coming out. going to give a brief correction to the program. It says in your program that we're about to play the Rumpel variations. This is brought to you by modern technology and autocorrect. It should say Rumpole, P-O-L-E, variations instead. Oh my goodness gracious. Thanks, Siri.
So these Rumpole variations were written by Graham Pounding. He's an Australian composer. He was an oboe player and composer. And he wrote those for the British detective or jurisprudence series Rumpole of the Bailey. Rumpole is a curmudgeonly character, so I guess that's why he thought bassoon was the right instrument for it. Pounding wrote over 800 works, and including over 100 trios for 2 oboes and English horn. So he was very, very fond of the double reed instruments. He also wrote 100 string quartets or something. So, but he was a very prolific composer. Lots of the pieces were on the short side. He really seemed to like the kind of the miniature size of things for some of his compositions, and a lot of them have really funny titles. So he's quite a character, as you will hear in this little set of variations.
The bassoon has so many different characters, and you hear it so often in movie music and in commercials. They use the sound of this voice, of this instrument, to create all kinds of different moods, both the silly and sonorous. Our next piece has a little mix of those two things. There's a couple beautiful movements in it, the opening triste and then the andante later have such a lovely character to them. And then the second and final movements are just jubilant and bouncy and really like to characterize a lot of the fun and finesse of the bassoon. We brought Barb Boyce back up to the stage. Woo! Thanks, Barb. This is going to be another bassoonist's relay race because this is actually a sonata for solo bassoon and basso continuo. And so we're each going to take turns playing the solo line and the movement with bassoon and harpsichord backup. I'm giving it to you.
Right. Before we do the piece with all the bassoons, we'll hear a little bit of a piece by Telemann for harpsichord alone. He wrote 3 sets of 12 fantasies for solo harpsichord. He also wrote for solo violin, solo flute, solo recorder, solo everything. And they're nice pieces, and they should be more often played, and no one's paid me to say that.
musical chairs.
Music chairs.
I need to see Barb. I want to see Barb. Yes, that's important. All right.
Oh, we're not switching.
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay, sorry.
you all so much.
We are coming to the end of our program with selections from a collection of trios for the bassoon by composer Julius Weisenborn. Bassoonists know Weisenborn well from his method book for the bassoon. It's a method for learning and studying the instrument. I'm going to pass the mic to Will to tell us a little bit about Weisenborn and this music in just a moment. But I just want to say thank you again so much to all of you for coming out to hear us this afternoon and for enjoying the joy of the bassoon with us all here. And many thanks to Harmonia and First Presbyterian Church for hosting us for this concert. We're so grateful to this space and their music director, Jeremy Roberts, for welcoming us in. Every time we want to play bassoon music here, it sounds like they're ready to receive us, so we're so grateful. Here. Yeah, thank you.
Weissenborn had quite a career as a bassoonist. He played with several opera orchestras. He also ended up teaching bassoon. And in 1883, he came out with this method for the bassoon, which is still the standard book for young bassoonists. And it's worth knowing something about what he does with that book, because it's one of the most intelligently laid out method books for a young player. He starts off with just 3 notes in the left hand, all the easy ones that are easy to play in the bassoon, and then each lesson adds 1 more note. But while the student is playing just a few notes, he's also getting the student to learn different time signatures and even different keys. Tonalities, even while they have only a small range. So that's quite different from modern educational materials for bands and things like that, which are designed to be kind of a one-size-fits-all sort of a thing. But Weissenborn really felt that students were smart and that they could learn more than just simple rhythms and simple time signatures. So it's really a brilliant piece of educational work. He also listened really, really carefully to the operas and the various other kinds of entertainments that he was playing in, where he was playing bassoon. He learned a lot from the music that he played as a bassoonist, and you can hear it in each one of these pieces. You may hear not cute quotations of other people's music like you heard in the Graham Pounding piece, but you can hear that he's absorbed a lot of the different flavors of instrumental styles from various different composers and from various different musical functions. So we're doing 3 movements of this set of 6 trios that he did. A Turkish march and a polka. That's always fun for bassoons. And then what's that other thing called? A serenade, and it's a chorale prelude. It's got, and you'll hear a note in long or melody in long notes underneath all the other busy work that the 2 of us are doing. One person's going to be playing this chorale. It's a very old form. Bach wrote lots and lots and lots of those. And here's Weissenborn doing that 150 years later.
Number 5.
They won't ever let me let this down. I completely started the wrong movement, like gloriously and very loudly. So they're always like flashing me what number to start. So third movement, for real, on purpose. It's still funny. you.
Ooh, sweating to the oldies.
I know.
That's a couple minutes.
I'm so glad
Thank you for
enjoyed
coming.
it. I'm so glad.
I love your royal purple. Always. Beautiful.
Thank you.
You can't go wrong when it's such a beautiful color. Thank you.
The little tree is
Absolutely. Bringer of jollity.
Yeah.